Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rip Roaring Creds podcast. You may notice that this evening Grev is missing, so you're with me, Jace, but no Greville this evening. He's off sunning himself in Spain. So we've been very unfortunate this week to have missed each other. Grev obviously covering the Palace game earlier, or last week now, while I was working in Norway. And now Grev is on holiday. And so he wasn't with me at the Fulham game on Saturday. So without further ado, I'll put the intro music on and we can get into the 2-2 draw with Fulham.
Saka. Saka! That is a diamond of a goal! It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent!
This is my club. Fucking love this football club.
Henri. What a goal! Gabriel Martinelli! He's scoring for Arsenal!
Okay. So as always, I'm going to keep to tradition and start with a bit boring review. So this week, I'm concerned a little bit. I'm concerned with the amount of goals that we're actually not scoring. I'm looking at the table already. I'm looking at some of the goal differences. City are already adding goals, and we were behind them on goal difference last year. I think part of it's the formation that we're playing. Part of it is lacking Jesus. He definitely adds something to our attack in regards to the volume of chances we're creating and how he brings Martinelli in. So that is a concern for me. But my actual review is trust the process. I'm kind of telling myself two things. One is we're not scoring enough goals. At the same time, I'm telling myself, trust the process. And the reason I say that is because if you watch or heard what Arteta said after the game, it was that we played 10 times better than we did against Fulham last year. So I just wanted to look a little bit deeper dive into those statistics. So yesterday, Arsenal had an XG, if you're into your data facts, of 3.26. However, last season, it was only 2.73. So the XG shows that we are improving our chance creation. At the same time, the amount we concede was also improved. So last year, it was 0.83. Yesterday, 0.56 from the Fulham's chances created with XG. So from those bases, you can see that we are improving, but sometimes the luck doesn't always go our way. Sometimes we don't see in the scoreline what we see in data. And this was an example of it. Now, it was only 2 points drops, but we know that we need to continue to hit it this year and absolutely smash every single game we can, especially at home and against opponents like Fulham. So it was very disappointing. And the whole ground, it did feel like a defeat, 2-2 draw, especially when Fulham were down to 10 men. But we have to stay positive. We're behind our manager and we have to trust in the process. And I think Mikel knows what he's doing here. He knows, and he's seeing the data and he believes in the team. And it's about, you may not have success immediately, but with consistency, the results will come. They will come. And I think that's a testament to Mikel, but also kind of proof through what he has done over the last 3 to 4 seasons. When we've had bad results, he has not jumped. He has not completely shifted and changed the process. He knows what he's doing. He has a plan and he's working towards it. And so we have to back him and we just have to trust the process. However, we as fans can be critical. And I think it's important that we move on and talk about defensive consistency. Because that was a little bit of a concern for me yesterday. Like I know that there's something new that Mikel was trying here, but but in the ground, we had an incredible amount of frustration with what we saw happening yesterday. Partly for a number of reasons. So let's start with Partey at right back. If you guys have been listening, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of him playing at right back. It does scare me. He's fine with the invert, but he does not do well when we are being counter-attacked. And that was how Fulham did get at us yesterday. It was through the odd counter-attack. Saka, very unfortunate to make a mistake. It's very unlike Saka to play a ball like that. It caught us on the back foot. Players were out of position. I actually think the finish was lucky. I don't think he took the Pereira to the finish that well, if I'm completely honest, but it did. But Ramsdale was wrong-footed. And again, in a game at home, we are conceding very, very, very early. It was so frustrating. It took the mood straight out of the ground, a pin drop. And that was disappointing. It just wasn't the way we wanted to start that game. And then we were on the back foot for the rest of the game. If we also talk about Partey playing at right back, the challenge also here for me with what we're doing at the moment, and I'm going to, by the way, talk here about how I'm maybe not so happy with the formation we play. At the same time, I'm still going to back Mikel. I'm not backing what he's doing. I just have an opinion and view, like any football fan does, of what I've seen on the pitch. We lose Ben White when we do not play with the back four we were playing last year, but we play this kind of more of a back three, and then sometimes the wing backs are inverted, or one of the centre backs kind of plays a wing back position and then inverts into midfield. We're losing the benefit of Ben White, in my opinion. He was so effective last year at overlapping, so Saka could then cut in. Sometimes Saka would pass and Ben would play a good cutback. Sometimes he'd just be the decoy, and Ben White has been vocal enough in himself that saying he is there to make Saka look like a superstar. Well, Saka has had a really tough start to the season, like especially the two home games. He had a wonder goal against Forest, but yesterday he was a little bit absent. Like, he was really struggling to create anything. And part of that is because he's losing the benefit of Ben White, who creates space for him, allows him to then cut inside because Ben White's pulling the defender away. And that's a real problem, because it's not just our defense that is suffering. It's also our attacking options that I believe are suffering as well. I do not think we're that prominent there. So that's a concern for me. Kivior, I have no problems. He didn't do much wrong. But there is a difference. When you see Zinni come on in the second half, Zinchenko was so much more composed with the ball at his feet. There was a pace, there was a tempo, there was a way that it was playing. You could see the change in quality as soon as he came onto the field. And then we were in a much better position. I do know that he gave the ball away. That ball eventually led to a corner, and that led to the goal for the equaliser for Fulham. That was disappointing. We know Zinchenko can make mistakes like that. However, we did have one or two opportunities actually before that goal, and him making the mistake to rescue that ball and stop the goal. So, as much as it was a contributor, it wasn't a direct contributor. Well, that's a challenge, but I think we brought Timber in to be a mitigation to that, and he's injured, so I don't see us going out and spending another 30 million on another Timber to play in Zinchenko's position. We have Zinchenko, we have to back him, and we have to support him. But there's a bigger topic with the defense. And the bigger topic with the defense is that Gabriel was on the bench again. I'm trying to understand why he was on the bench again. It was not clear to me. Is he ill? Is he being bought and sold, to Saudi Arabia? It's not clear. I don't know what's happening there. I think it's worrying all Arsenal fans, though. Has he done something that is annoyed Arteta, that he's being punished for something? We know that Arteta can, and when he needs to, give players the cold shoulder. It doesn't make sense when you've got Saliba and Gabriel's partnership last year was one of, if not the best defensive partnership in the league. And it only broke down for us when Saliba had the injury in the last 2 months of the season. It had a massive impact on our title challenge. So I'm not clear on why we aren't playing Gabriel. It's actually a little frustrating, as I will continue to repeat, we have to trust what Arteta's doing. But there was so many people commenting on it in the ground. I think we were all talking about it afterwards, and it's not clear. When you've got a player of that caliber, it just doesn't make sense. And I think a number of fans are almost asking to please stop experimenting with the defense. So it feels like an experimentation with the defense in the moment. It may be that Arteta's just decided that we're going to play this new formation, and maybe he's just saying we've got to play it, drill it into us, and become comfortable with it. And this is going to be the way we play. We've seen the fact that Man City are pretty much playing with a back four, sometimes a back three, but with all centre backs, lacking traditional wing backs, if you will, almost. And so maybe that's what we're pivoting to. But for me personally, I don't think it's working right now. We're always conceding at home. Like Grev and myself and our other friend Spence, we do a score prediction every game, and we give ourselves points and rank a league table on it by the end of the season. And every game, my score prediction, I always, even for a home, I always go Arsenal win 3-1, 2-1, 4-1. It's never 4-0, 2-0, 3-0. Because we always have one in us. We always have at least one goal in us. I was more confident last year in the defense. I'm worried of the start to the season. We're not showing that stability. The experimentation, it feels like experimentation with defense is not working. And I really feel we are missing Gabriel. I think all fans in the moment just want to see Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White. White, it's fairly solid. Zinchenko adds that extra in the midfield. And with White, we get that overlapping of Saka. And that's just the stability that we want to see at the moment. So fingers crossed that we might get that for the next game, especially with Manchester United. I think we have to really go out against United and hit it hard, because we need to win that game now after dropping points against Fulham. We need to win every game, but especially the United game, they aren't really on the best run of form from the start of the season. So we need to bring our old form back, with Jesus back as well. We do have then almost with Bar Timber a pretty fully fit squad. So hopefully we can start to get back to those performances that we were familiar with, especially at the beginning of last season. So let's move on a little bit further up the field to what was happening in the midfield. And I want to talk first about Havertz, because Havertz was playing in the left 8 role. We played a front three of Martinelli, Saka, and Trossard. So Havertz was playing in the Granit Xhaka position. There was an incredible amount of frustration in the ground. Me and my friend Spence, we were berating what we were seeing. I am not going to go out there and say Havertz was a bad buy. I don't understand why we bought him, and what a number of fans are saying. There's a lot of criticalness of him, but at the moment, I am still struggling to see the potential that I know that the Arteta sees, and there's a couple of main reasons for it yesterday. There's no urgency in transitions, and I think that is the most concerning thing out of anything. It's the urgency in transitions. There's multiple times when I felt he wasn't giving the ball quick enough to Martinelli. And sometimes just playing, like there was one time where Martinelli wanted to play his kind of classic 1-2. He'd always play with Xhaka. And so he'd play the pass in, and Xhaka would read where he was going to the byline and give the ball back. Martinelli did that with Havertz. Havertz didn't play the ball in front, in between the hole within the defenders. He played it directly back to the place that Martinelli was standing when he passed the ball. But obviously by that point, Martinelli had gone. He was looking for the return ball through the gap between the defenders towards the byline. So it's like I don't know if there's something yet where he needs to play the position more and understand the movement of the players and how we play in that position. But there's something there that's not clicking. We know that he has a Mesut Ozil style body language. He's not slow, but he does at times, the way he's presenting himself on the pitch, look disinterested, look very slow in his movement. And I don't believe he is that player, but it doesn't help in the ground. There was such a frustration. And then two other things for me that really stuck out. One was the commitment to get on the end of a cross. There was a cross that kind of came in the first half. We were sat in the clock end right behind the goal, and the ball came across the front of the 6-yard box. It was there for a tap in. It's like he kind of stopped running towards it. He kind of like stopped, assuming someone else was going to get there. And it was so annoying because if he'd have kept going, he'd have had a tap in. So that kind of commitment to get on the end of the ball, we didn't see that. The only time he did try to get on the end of the ball was when it was behind him, and he tried to do I don't know what he was doing with the back of his feet. He tried to do a flick of some kind. The problem was, I don't know if there wasn't a shout from Leo, but Trossard was in at the back post, and he would have had a clear shot on goal. But this kind of touch or flick from behind himself that Havertz did just took the ball off the top of Leo's foot, and that was really disappointing because then we lost a goal scoring chance. So there was just all of these small little things like overall, his all round play is okay. Like he's good in keeping possession. He's making a number of good passes, but it's all of these small other things that we're seeing, and this is adding up because these are in the critical transitional periods for us when we were last year very dangerous. Zinni backed up by Xhaka, Martinelli, but you also had Jesus kind of coming in with Martinelli on that left-hand side of the pitch. It was the most dangerous area for us at the beginning of last season, and none of that is there right now. So just a real big kind of concern, I think, for Arsenal fans with that. But we need to still, I think, give him time. He needs to learn how to play with these players. I think it's very clear that he is still learning. So let's move on to someone else who came in on the midfield. Fab Vieira. I've literally called this Fab Vieira. My first words, if you're listening, Grev, eat your words, my friend. Eat your words, because Fabio was absolutely brilliant. He came on in the second half. I think I can't actually recall who he came on for. I know Havertz came off, so I think that might have been the switch. But there was a spring in his step. As soon as he got on the ball, he was moving so much faster, so much better in transitions. He was spraying the ball around. It was a different side of Fabio that I think we saw in a few games last year against Brentford away, that he can do this. He kind of grabs the game by the balls and just by the horn, sorry, and just pulls it along. But it was really an outstanding performance by him. Something that we want to see, where he can dominate the midfield. He was incredible in his little quick feet around the box. He was continuing to add to his transitional passes. He would then continue to run on, and he did two great things. One was the charge into the box where he won the foul and he got the penalty, and the second was the pass, the ball across from the left-hand side, then for Eddie Nketiah's goal. Absolutely superb. It was a beautifully timed ball. I mean, the finish from Eddie I'll talk about in a bit, but it was a beautifully timed ball by Fabio. It was a level of maturity that I saw from him yesterday that I have not seen before. It was what we have been waiting to see. So incredibly happy with his performance. So yeah, Grev, if you're listening, watch that highlight reel of Fabio because he was awesome. So let's go on to Mr. Nketiah. Your defense is in trouble because Nketiah was in the room. He was awesome. Again, I'm disappointed that he didn't start because in the game against Forest, he was very good. He's good at home. When he starts at home, he scores. Luckily, he came off the bench at half time and he still scored, which he hasn't been too prominent at doing. It's coming on as a sub and scoring. But for me, he was exactly what we needed yesterday. So the press, that energy that I felt we lacked with our press in the first half, he was there. He was putting pressure on the defenders. He was continuing. He reminded me of Jesus. Actually, we always kind of, in a way, kind of used to be quite critical of Eddie once we'd seen what Jesus can do. But you can tell Eddie has been learning from Jesus because he I think he said he trains like a beast every day, even if he doesn't get in the starting lineup because he knows what's required of him. Well, he played like one yesterday. The press was awesome. The commitment to chase the ball down, to the fact that he managed to get us on the counter, and then he forced their defender into a foul, which gave the second yellow away, and then they went down to 10 men. So absolutely brilliant performance by him there. And then let's just give him some time to talk about that finish, because that finish was beautiful. It was so nicely taken. His side foot into the bottom of the right hand corner from the ball that came from Fabio across the side. It was a beautifully taken finish in the way that he just caught it with his foot. A beautiful positioned finish. I very much reminded me of a Thierry finish. So for me, Thierry had two particular finishes that I felt were always very common. We all know the kind of come into the box on the left hand side and then use your right foot to put it in the bottom corner across the far side of the goal, like the goal he scored against Leeds United in the FA Cup. But the other finish that Thierry was able to do is when the ball came sweeping in along the front on the ground, was the ability to angle his foot in a position that wouldn't go straight at the goal, but would pitch it into one of the far corners. And that was exactly what Eddie did. It was smooth, it was quick, and it was just a lovely taken finish. He was a poacher in the box. And that's exactly what we need, because we were playing, especially in the last 20 minutes yesterday, we were playing a number of balls over the top. We were just especially in the last 10, we were getting cross after cross after cross in. But at this point, we'd taken Havertz off. I think we'd taken Rice off. We'd taken Partey off. So at this point, it's like, who are you crossing the ball to? Why are we putting in all these high balls? Because we haven't got someone who's going to be able to compete for those crosses and get that winner that we needed in the last 10 minutes. So the exact kind of balls we needed to playing into the box were like the ones that Fabio did for Eddie, and it was just a beautiful finish. So that was actually everything I had to talk about. But I think it's just probably worth just kind of talking in general about the formation and whether it's working. I think the big concern for me is that we are conceding goals. We are recovering, but we are recovering our loose balls. We are always kind of going at the moment one-on-one with the defender, with their attack. And most of the time when you've got someone like Saliba, that's okay. But the concern for me was it was happening far too often where there was one-on-ones. And for me, that's where we're leaking goals. We've seen it against Forest. We looked ropey to an extent. We were very grateful for William Saliba, but because we're just getting caught on the counter attack. And yesterday it was happening again. Like Fulham's end products, as shown by the XG, was very, very low. However, it was nervy to an extent in the ground. I think we all knew how much we needed the points, and we all knew how the mistake in the first half had put us on the back foot, and it just wasn't an enjoyable experience to watch in the ground, to be honest. And so I really want to see us tighten up our defensive play. And I want to see a more solid defensive performance, but with a support from the midfield. I feel like not having Partey permanently sitting in front of the defense with a traditional back four is hurting us. And I think that that's not helping us in our attacking play as well, because the fact that Partey used to be sitting in that position last year, using his quick feet to then get the ball onto Xhaka or finding a hole in the defense, or spraying the ball left and right. We're missing that a little bit. We're relying on Rice to do that, but then as a result, we don't have Xhaka in the 8 anymore. So we can. I still strongly believe that a stronger defense is the back four, and I want to see Partey, Rice, and Odegaard. I feel like that worked really well when we did see it in pre-season, and then suddenly at the start of the season, we've pivoted away from it. And so I just feel that we need to make some changes there. So, parking lots. Let's talk about some of the things that were not related to our disappointing 2-2 draw with Fulham. Mike Dean. So you may have seen, I know most Arsenal fans have seen the comments by Mike Dean on another podcast with the VAR incident. I'm not going to go into that. There's been a lot that's been discussed about, what Mike Dean said. I think it was unprofessional and wrong. The Referees Association is held to a level of professionalism, and I don't think Mike Dean has done any favors to the current referees and Howard Webb and the job that he's got to do. I'm more gonna call out the fact that we all have a bit of a hatred, I guess, not just Arsenal. I think many clubs of Mike Dean over the years and the way he's refereed our games. But I think in general, it was something I saw on Twitter, which was around what Arsene Wenger said. I think it was in 2018. He called him out on the sideline for being dishonest, not honest. And Mike Dean said, "Are you calling me a cheat?" And I think Arsene said something along the lines of, "You heard what I said. You're not honest, and this is many times against us that you've done this." Later, Arsene was given a 3-game touchline ban and a 40k fine. And as always, everyone jumped on Wenger, as they always did. But comments like what Mike Dean is saying there, just it just doesn't help. It doesn't help, and I think, in a way, I say hatred. I don't think we should hate anybody, but he's a nice guy on the Peter Crouch podcast. If you've ever listened to that, but there's a professionalism to your job, and I think that he's made a big error in what he said on that podcast. So that for me was a big faux pas on his account, and I think something that not just Arsenal fans but all fans are not happy about. Let's move on and just talk about the ground again on Saturday. I definitely saw from the Ashburton Army, it looked like more of those guys were in the ground for this home game, so there was a slight increase in numbers there. Definitely, I made that assumption by the volume of flags I was seeing in that area, and banners were as a lot larger than the first game. But I know Grev in one of our previous podcasts talked about the lack of atmosphere in the ground, and I still feel that was present yesterday. I just felt that last year, every home game, there was a vibe, there was an excitement, there was an energy, not just on the concourse, but once you got in the ground, the whole 90 minutes, you would be bouncing, it would be singing, and I just feel that energy is just not there. And even when we concede, like we conceded 2 goals yesterday, right? Both not great goals to concede. We've already talked a little bit about the Saka giving away the first one, but after you concede last year, Arsenal fans were right behind the team. I remember Saliba making a mistake last year. Every single Arsenal fan was right behind the team, egging them on from the moment that ball hit our own net. We were right behind them. And that's when we kind of all went, something's changed here. Like, this is a different environment. This is a different. We are different as fans, and this team is different. We're not seeing that this year. I'm not feeling that same energy, and that is incredibly important as our role as fans in the ground to maintain that, to help the team continue to perform at the levels we were at. It's our responsibility to do our part. I personally, for me, I'm not being critical of anybody in the ground. I just felt as a whole, we were not doing that yesterday, and I'm not saying that is going to change the result, but I'd like to think that we give the players energy, and I just feel like the energy was sucked out the ground with the first goal. Okay, we shouldn't be conceding that early, but it is also our responsibility as fans to get behind the team. And I felt I was just missing a little bit yesterday. I was a little bit disappointed. I think that the ballot system isn't helping there, because the fact that we are not sat, we're still sat in the same end when we've been getting our tickets this year, but we haven't been sitting where we usually sit. We've been sprawled about different places in the clock end. And so I think that's the same for a number of people, and I think that is having an impact. Also, just mentioning on the ballot, I'm still seeing loads of rows of spare seats around, and it's really frustrating me. There are people who want to go to these games that can't get a ticket and are legitimate members paying their Reds and Silver membership. And in the coming games, Manchester United and Spurs, we haven't got tickets. We went in for Silvers, we went in for Reds. Both we didn't get tickets, especially with the Red memberships. I think as well, like if you don't get Silvers, but then not to get Reds as well, it's like, why are we paying for memberships if we can't get tickets to games? It's frustrating because we want to be in the ground, but it's even more frustrating when you see empty seats on. So I guess that's also an ask to anyone who has a season ticket who cannot go, or anyone has a ticket who can't go. Please put your ticket on the exchange, because they will be snapped up. I will be looking for tickets for Manchester United, and I will be looking for tickets for Spurs. And if I can get one, I will take it. So yeah, just a message to all fans to, given the ballot system in its current state, please put your tickets on the exchange if you can't go. And we'll see with Man City, we've gone in for the ballot. We'll see if we get it. Fingers crossed we do. So there's been a little bit of transfer news. We're coming to the final week of the window now. I think there's 3 or 4 days to the final end of the window, and we're finally seeing some outgoing. So Balogun to Monaco is pretty much a done deal, around 40 million euro worth mark, but which isn't as much as we want to get, right? I think that's about 35 million pounds. I think really we want, but I think with add-ons it'll get closer to the 40 to 45 million pound mark. And then I think the big thing here is that there's a big juicy sell-on clause where we are likely to cash in for how much ever Monaco sell him to the next big thing. So I'm confident that Balogun will do well in Monaco. If you look at that team in Ligue 1, the league this year is much more open. There's no Messi, there's no Neymar in PSG. The PSG's squad has been ripped out. I think it's a much more competitive and exciting league. I personally love watching Liga, and I've watched it ever since the days that Arsenal used to get loads of French players. So I've always enjoyed watching that, and I think it's going to be an exciting league this year. I think PSG are going to not dominate the league. I think it's going to be entertaining. You're going to have the likes of Lyon, Marseille, I think maybe Lens, maybe Lille, and then Monaco have got they're building a squad, a young and talented squad, and I think Balogun fits the profile of what they're looking for, especially because of the stuff with Ben Yedder. I think that he's going to be the star striker there. I can see him performing. I can see him growing and developing further. So the fact that we've got that sell-on clause is incredibly important because he will grow, and I think he will go to a top big European club. He might go to a big top European club we don't want him to go to if he performs in Ligue 1. Let's be honest. I think I could see him coming back to the Premier League for a team that we probably want to see him playing for. But, we were never going to sell him direct to that team. So if that's his way he gets back to the Premier League, then fair enough. But at least we're cashing in on it as well. So best of luck to him. Then today it's been announced that Tierney has joined Real Sociedad. I'm a little bit disappointed in a way. I feel like occasionally we could still do with him in that left back position, especially with Timber's absence. Alone doesn't really satisfy me. If we're gonna not have him in the squad, I'd rather us be selling him. But clearly, there's no buying market for 30 million on a mid-20s defender, as he would have gone already. Clearly, the money that we want for him is not there. And clearly, Arteta has communicated to him that he's not going to get the game time that he wants, which is disappointing for him. And so you can understand him wanting to go and get a whole season under his belt of full, playing every game left back at a high level. So I was quite surprised by Sociedad, if I'm honest. I think he'd have been a good fit maybe in the Bundesliga. I think probably would have been a league that maybe suited him better, if I'm honest. But I was quite surprised by Sociedad. But I wish him all the best. I've got a lot of time and respect for Kieran Tierney. I think he is a absolute professional. He has represented our club incredibly well. I'm kind of a little bit disappointed for him, the fact that it's not turned out how maybe we wanted it to at Arsenal. I respect that we needed a different caliber of wing back, and Tierney doesn't fit that profile anymore. So as a squad, we've moved on. But he's an utmost professional. There were times when we were in a dark place, and he was one of our best players. There was a point in time when we said he will be our next captain. And I just really like Kieran Tierney. I've got so much time for him, even with his bringing his football kit in the Tesco bag to the stadium. Absolutely brilliant. So I wish him all the best. I look forward to seeing him back next season, but I guess I'm not too hopeful that we'll really ever see him playing properly at the Emirates again. I think he's going out on loan this season. I think it's pretty much set in stone that at some point he will be moving on. So that's it for today's podcast. We are up against United next week on Sunday. So Grev's going to the game because he's going with his kids to the sensory room. I will be either, if I can get a ticket, maybe in the ground, but more likely watching with my friends on TV. So we will probably be back next Sunday or Monday evening with a review of the United game. We'll be both back together, so you don't have to listen to my dull tones for 40 minutes or so. So let's hope for a better performance against United and a much stronger performance in regards to our defensive and our attacking capabilities. As always, please give this a 5-star review, as Grev would say, on your podcast provider, and no less. And continue to give us a thumbs up and leave any comments or questions you have in the YouTube videos. But for now, have a great week, guys, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.